Hey there, Aligned You listeners. This is Dr. M here, and welcome to our Aligned and Thriving season and series of interviews. I am super pumped to be sharing a series of stories and interviews with some amazing humans. People, some who I've admired from a distance for a long period of time, others who I know personally and call dear friends and feel very privileged to do so. This series is designed to actually dive deeper into what allows them to truly live an aligned you life and to be thriving, whether that's in their work life, their home life, or their play life. And working out truly, is there common themes or is everyone different and we really do all reach our full potential in our own unique way? Enjoy this season. I've had an absolute pleasure and joy recording it. I'm your host, Dr. M, and you're listening to Aligned You, a podcast designed to assist you to truly be aligned through your body, head, and heart so you can reach your full potential in your own unique way. Hey there, Aligned You listeners. Dr. M here, and I am super excited that we are back into the Aligned You interview series of Aligned and Thriving. And I am pumped to have a very special guest today, the beautiful Ere Perez. Everyone who meets Ere agrees there is something special about her. Perhaps it's a mystical influence of her Latin heritage, a childhood spent in Mexico with a traditional medicine man grandfather. I'm going to be asking you more about that in a moment, Ere. And mother's flair for home remedies and beauty recipes made Ere curious about nature and healing. She obtained a bachelor in nutrition and certification in naturopathy, bark flowers, and acupuncture. She emigrated to Australia with a rich cultural heritage and dreamed of her own natural beauty line, which in 2002 her dream was realised, and the Ere Perez Natural Cosmetics was born in Bondi Beach, Sydney. For Ere, natural beauty is about how you live your life, how you connect with the world, and how you nourish your body both inside and out. Welcome to today's show, Ere. I'm so excited to have you here, and I want to dive deeper into all of those things that were so beautifully summed up within that beautiful, gorgeous bio of yours. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you. I am very excited also. I'm really happy to be here. I feel align is exactly what we need now. We need to align and we need to share all these stories. How do we all travel in different ways to get to where we are today, and just learn from each other. I think that's all about.
Absolutely. And I love your story. And I'm going to ask you to share a little bit more about various aspects of your story, because when you start, well, actually, I'm going to dive straight into it. So in 2002, you started your cosmetics line, and I believe it started with a mascara. Have I got that right?
Yeah, well, we started in 2002, which is we're nearly going to be 22 next year.
Wow.
Since we started. I started with a very simple product. I guess all basic, inclusive, just the basic one black mascara that I was needed myself for my very sensitive eyes and skin. And a simple formulation that was just came up from curiosity. I got these big words on my wall here at the office in Bondi. Says, curious, conscious, clean. What are we? Who are we? And how do we want to think? And curiosity, I think, is is the mother of all creativity. And also, I say to my kids, it's okay to be bored. Just be bored, and then if you get entertaining all the time and trying to use that brain or being having all this stuff all the time in your head, that you get just all this nutritive information, which is good, but sometimes it's everywhere, on screens, on all different senses we receive information these days. And then if you don't get bored, then sometimes you don't look for solutions. And so for me, I was in a moment of, I arrived, I have different jobs as we do. When we arrive, I was very young. I'm 50 soon next year.
Yes.
So I was 20 something when I arrived, and I looked for different jobs. My English was terrible, still not amazing.
It's pretty bloody good, Ere. Give yourself a break. A little bit of grace there.
Thank you so much. My writing is not really that amazing, but my grammar, my daughters now, I have 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy, 13, 11, and 8. So they keep me.
Oh, they're little.
With the homework. They are really, fun. And my husband and I have been together 25 years next year. And it's been the 3 kids, the first 10 years, no kids, fun, up and down. That's what we did. And one day my father arrived with a Kama Sutra book, and he says, "What's going on with you? Why do you have any kids?" I
Was that
I
is that
put
a
this
fairly
into a
regular
perspective.
conversation?
Is not, look, my dad, that's what I bring him into the conversation, because that's exactly how my life was. I was this weird child back in
Yeah.
Mexico with a hippie mom and dad, and they were very strange, my mom and dad. So I wasn't brought up religiously like most Mexican people. Our Catholic religion is very strong in Mexico, and it takes you to a very different way of the way you see things. And in my house, yeah, I have the two sides. My mom would love me to read the Bible, but not really into the Catholic Church. Just studying the Bible is something I still like to read and loved. And then on the other side, then I have my dad, who was all about, he was an economist. It was all about the history and the rules and the laws, and loved listening to all his different theories about Marxism and all of this. So that was my upbringing. So I have the most beautiful life. And then when I turned 15, my father had a car accident. So it was just an accident that happens from another car that just bumped into the car he was in. So he broke his leg, and that brought this thing into our family, that he couldn't work anymore. He was the main breadwinner, as they said. So for a while, for more than a year, he was in bed. So at 15, I remember I had my braces on, and I was like, what am I gonna do with this? And my mom said, well, you gotta find some money to keep on doing your treatment. So, because my name means the princess of the smile, Erendira, which is
Oh,
my
really?
my name. Yeah. So I said, I gotta get rid of these braces. So I start learning one of the most incredible professions I think that people could learn, which is sales. So
Yes.
at 15, I became a salesperson, just like that, because I have to. So my mom started making some food. We have this beautiful home with no money for electricity, for this or that. So just inside this lovely house that obviously my mom don't want to sell. My dad couldn't bring any more money. And then we're just like, all right, so how do we keep going? Then I wanted to keep having a pool, but we have no water on the pool, no electricity, no money for chlorine and stuff. So my dad said, if you want the pool, you need to run it yourself. And I was like, how do I do that? Well, I don't know. It costs this much. So I started just going up and down in the street, and just I'll make little papers that I was doing swimming classes. So at 16, I started this business of a swimming class school, and having all these kids coming to my house in the morning. I just print some papers, before it was copy. I
Were
remember
you a
making
strong
this.
swimmer, Era? Could you
I
swim
mean,
well?
a strong swimmer. I was a good swimmer, but on a pool in my parents'
Yeah.
pool, I was very patient. I have a little brother. My brother was 10 and I was 15. But it was like Australia, is like this incredible place where I tend to put together, my Mexican flair with the love of Australians for nature and how much they love. I do love swimming, but I'm not as near as any of my beautiful Aussie friends that they just cross. Here where I am in Clovelly and Bondi is amazing what they do. I am not that kind of swimmer, but I was definitely very good with kids and just teaching them the basics. As I come from Monterrey, a beautiful city surrounded by mountains, and it's a big city, the second biggest city in our country. And in this place, it's all about business, and it's a very, still today. I was just listening to the news that Tesla boy is gonna go there, and they're gonna put together all the machines and engineering for the cars, because now that Mexico is the new I guess China for the US.
Oh,
We're
wow.
gonna manufacture so many things, which is probably a lot of prosperity for Mexico, but at the same time, we have to urbanize it better, I guess, for these changes. So when you're there and you belong to this place where there's so much going on, the survival is quite a thing. And when you in this brought up in like a, a social class, because we're so divided in those countries, and then all of a sudden you like have this in my house going, okay, what I'm going to do now? So I'm doing the kids classes, and then I remember the first month I make some money, and then I was so excited with this. I think it was 200 pesos per kid. I was charging to have an hour class every week, and I have 20 kids out of the sudden from me walking. And then when I had the money, my dad said to me, okay, so show me. And I showed him, I said, okay, now this is for you and this is for me. And I said, how come? And he said, because business are like that. It's not all
There's
for you.
overheads.
And I was like, And I was like, what do you mean? Yeah, you got to pay for the water. You got to pay for this. You got to pay for that. And I was like, oh. So I learned at a very young age that's, I think, is a very today problem for many creators, many businesses, that people don't understand that you can't just grow without giving. You can't be on your own. There is not a one-man show. This is definitely not the Ere Perez show. We got so many people here involved. Juan, my husband, we got beautiful other creators and smart, beautiful people who are a team of 40 now between here and Mexico,
I was going to
two
ask,
offices.
40 people, 40.
40 people plus
That's awesome.
people that that align with us as suppliers and outside from the contractors and so on. But for me, being here today, it just showed me that it doesn't really matter the size of what you want to do. What it matters is that every day you start something. 1% in 100 days gives you 100% in 100 days. So in that moment, while I was doing all of this, it just came to me that, oh, I can sell something. And then my mom needed to find a solution, so we decided to start this food business. And then she started creating these little tamales, they call it, and they go. But she kind of created this very strange system that I never seen in my life, and I grabbed it from her when I arrived in Australia. So she just decided to call people. So grab the yellow pages. She went straight to the phone numbers from one of the most beautiful suburbs in Monterrey, where I'm from, in our city, where my dentist was.
Yeah.
Here we go. I don't want to go off the conversation.
No, keep going. I love it. Don't. I'll reel you back in if we're going off track.
I literally, that's very normal of me going off track, but like I was just literally
We're
going
kindred
to
spirits.
to get my braces done, and I was in this street going, okay. So I knock at the door because my mom called them before, say, oh, hi, I'm selling this beautiful thing for you Friday night and for your weekends. They come 25 in a box. So in my house, we have a little room at the back that she made a like kind of a mini industrial kitchen. She started making all these tamales with the lady who comes to help her. And then we have 100 and 200 divided in packages of 25. You've probably seen them. There's a very nice banana leaf that you spread with corn and then fill them in with different fillings. They could be vegetarian or meat. And then you fold them and put them in the steam. And there's a very common thing to have on big parties in Mexico, because the making one taco at a time is quite difficult. It's very hard to do good taco if you know, there's so many Mexican restaurants in Sydney, and I always struggle to have say the tortilla needs to be hot when it comes to you. That's the point of the whole. That's why, I guess the taco shell is famous in other countries that are not Mexico. But so this tamale is a very common way for Mexicans to feed a lot of people at once, and the product is hot because it's inside the leaf. So the corn is fresh and it feels good with the protein or the veggies filling. So this business is starting, and she started calling and calling. So I pretty much finished my high school through this entrepreneurial life. And then I started university, and that was like, for me, my dad said, all right, do you want to, you know what you want to do? And I was like, I'm not sure that. He said, okay, so don't go to school, stop 6 months. That was the rare thing. Like, no one will do that to the kid. Everybody would just push the kid. And my dad will go, don't worry, just wait, go and drive to the different. I remember I have a fake driver's license. So I was 17 because I started, and I used to drive to this different, very Mexican over there. So I just drive to the university, and I park is this whole area from health. That is medicine, dentistry, nutrition, so many science. Obviously that was my field, and I knew I liked that. So when I parked there, I parked outside the medical school, and it was full. I couldn't, so I have to park outside the orthodontics school. And then I just went in and said, so what's this? I started looking everywhere, and I just went to all the schools by coincidence where I find parking, and I realized I didn't know there was this health and nutrition bachelor. So that's what I did. I studied that until 22.
Purely because of where the parking was you ended up in.
Parking. So just
I love that. If that's not random serendipity, I don't know what is.
Yeah,
I love it.
the way we do things. So I just park in this random place where I found parking, and I end up in my career. So I parked there. I was like, oh, this seems all right. So I said, oh, doctor takes you 8 years. That's a lot. Dentist is 6 years. So I knew I needed to do university. That's Mexico. So I did 4 years. Yeah. So I did the
Yep.
4 years bachelor with science, nutrition, and beautiful health. Public health is called public health and nutrition. So that was very nice. Through that time, between the 18 and the 22, I had this coming and going to Mexico City just to see my cousins, and my mother used to send me there for holidays, and then I meet my cousin's friend, who today is my husband. So that's how it happened. But it was a bit funny how it all happened. So I was there in Mexico, and when I came back to finish my uni, I realized that there were so many choices to have your diploma. So I went the hard way. I decided to do a thesis that takes 2 years for me, because that's what I chose to do. So I love research. I'm so passionate about research in everything. I love looking at things. I'm very curious. So I end up just doing that. And my thesis was in Mexico City, in one of the top hospitals of nutrition in the world and in Latin America. So I have a beautiful research there with an incredible doctor, Dr. Ali Halhali Baghdad. He was amazing. And we were working with pregnant women with preeclampsia, which is 10% of women in Mexico who get this in those days. We're talking about 97, something like that. So it was a very nice research through 2 years where I get to do everything. You know, you used to do the sample
so cool.
and the cord blood from babies when they were delivered. It was a transition, like the study was through the 9 months of the pregnancy. So that's why it took 2 years of the 100 sample that we had. So all of this, it just got me like, I knew I like science. I knew I like food. So I just want you to understand how this happened. So we have all this food in my life. I had the food business and I had sales. So, and this is whoever's going to be listening to your talk, it's just to, I think for me, probably because I'm on this parenting situation right now, for anyone at any age, or all these people who are trying to find themselves, you know, midlife crisis and so on, and any age, I just think anything can lead you to the next. And I feel that we don't need to be hard on ourselves and what tomorrow. I think we have to. I'm a big believer of today is the day. I'm a big believer of right now, of accomplishing things one thing at a time, and not feel defeated by the future that you plan so much that allows you to maybe feel not content, or I guess angry of the present because you didn't reach something, or something you really wanted to buy, to have, to study, to be with. And I feel like that's my journey. It's been of taking whatever it comes as it comes. So I was currently into this journey of doing this, going to Mexico City, staying in Monterrey, should I do? And in the middle of that, I had all these different courses because I love naturopathy. That comes from my family, from my mom's side. My dad's side,
Was
they're
your
scientists.
grandfather who was the medicine man on your
On
mother's
my
side?
mom's side, they're from
Yeah.
Chihuahua. They both, like, you know, my grandma will put beetroot on her cheeks. Then my mother did the
Yeah,
same. I got
wow.
a product like that. Then my mom will put onions under my bed so I don't get sick. And I am actually not normally sick. I think
Yeah.
some
Do you
people
still
that
put
way.
onions under your bed and your kids'
I do
beds?
that on my kids. Like I use
Yeah.
the peel of the onion, for example, when you have a cut. Like I don't use
Yes.
Band-Aids, for example. I do all of that. You know, I
Yeah,
take
that's awesome.
garlic as tablets. I do Lebanon water. I cannot tell you I look like J-Lo, not at all. But I'm just
You look
trying.
pretty
I'm a
bloody good for
general.
50-something.
Nah, no. I'm not 50 yet. Next year, but I'm just
Not
saying.
50, 49, beg your pardon.
I'm not really that good with exercise, but I am healthy. I know, because I don't really get sick very often. But I hope, fingers crossed that I am. You never know what's going
Yeah.
on inside. But I feel
So
like,
what brought you to Australia, Eri? If
just
that was around that time after your research
that's
paper?
exactly. So during my research, that was the 2 years I was in Mexico City, and doing all these different courses. I done iridology and everything, naturopathy at the same time with nutrition. So I pretty much amalgamate this science with the food and all the things that I had from my grandpa and my grandma since I was little. And then on my dad's side, he was an incredible chemist, and my grandpa and a scientist and my grandma, and they have a laboratory. So I was always, when I was little, we had this influence of my grandpa. So I kind of had the science and the crazy hippies on my life on both sides, on my dad's side and on my
What
mom's
a
side.
beautiful
So
mix.
it was a beautiful mix and a beautiful upbringing, and I'm very I would not regret anything of my childhood. It was tough in some time, but it was so much learning and so much that's what I want for my kids. I give everything
Yeah.
I can to them. I'm not a person who's looking much for my own luxuries. I have never been like that. It's more everything to them, everything like education, not really something to do with creating like a connection into the world without knowing what's happening, but more about understanding. Sometimes you just got to understand. So there's no judgment there. There's just freedom, and that's all.
Yeah.
That today we live in 2023. We need freedom, but this has been for a long time. So it's been a long time of understanding that we as humankind, we've been through so many things. What we live in today is nothing different and difficult than other generations have lived in their time. We all today having some things that we live today, they're like, oh my God, that's really easy, but that wasn't easy before. Now we have different challenges, and that's why I want to prepare my children and my team in my business for the challenges that we're facing. And that comes with the curiosity of being content with today and just go, okay, this is what I've got. I want to do this today. I want to make it happen. I want to be strong. And that's something I learned in just jumping to one thing to the other until all of a sudden I was like, oh, how did I end up in Australia? I tell you exactly
And
like
how
that.
did you end up in Australia?
Exactly, because I was in Monterrey, then I went to Mexico City. I'm doing all these studies. I'm going to this hospital doing my research, and in the middle of that, of course, you need to have fun. A girl needs to have fun. So I was, 21 in a city with no parents, living with a flatmate for the first time in my life. Just me being free. I can come anytime I want, do whatever I like. So I start going out, lots of different parties with my cousin. He's very nice, and he had his friend Juan, who today is my husband. So that's where the
Yes.
Perez come from. So he's Juan Perez. So when I got married, I became Perez. So that's what is Ere Perez. So this business is literally that. Nobody sees the guy, but he's actually the guy who
He's
does
part
all
of
the
it.
things that I find. I say,
I was going to say, was
very
he there
proud
when
of
you
this.
developed the first mascara that was
It
the
was
first product line?
is the product. He's been always involved in the all the very difficult, um, interesting things that I find boring, that he finds exciting. I think
That's the
we
perfect
make a
mix,
pretty
right?
good team. A pretty
Yeah.
good team. Juan is a very, very, very smart person, and
Was
he's a
it
very
just
kind
the two
man.
of you when the
But
business started?
I look. This was just me. He had his job.
Yeah.
His job. He's an engineer. He had his job in different companies that he worked in here in Sydney, and it was just me trying to start something because I didn't want to be a waitress. I didn't want to be a babysitter. I liked all these jobs, but it wasn't something I wanted to do forever. Obviously, I had my university degree, but I needed to flow with my English. And so in the middle of that, I was like, I want to go back to Mexico, see my family, how I'm going to do it. So I say,
Yeah.
how do I make, okay, I make $15 an hour. How I'm going to make that quicker? So I need to make $15 per product. I have to sell something. I thought in my head, like my mother, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So that's how I started. So I was I have to do some commerce. I did the English test that you need to do for the health and science professions, and I did pass it. And then when I passed it, it was something important that for me was like, wow. So I go and look for my first job as a nutritionist here and in the hospital, and it was like, oh, it was so new. I had no experience for them here in Australia, so I really didn't get much if I wanted to follow that job. So it was literally better to keep going as a waitress, which many people does today. I know that. And then in that moment I was like, no, but this is my profession. I don't want to just do this. I want to do something else. So you kind of, by then, it was just starting something new. When I was in Mexico and in Mexico City with Juan, and I saw him at a party, he was coming back from Australia. He was doing backpacking around the world when he finished his university. So he was going everywhere, and then he had to come back for his visa to Mexico City for his residency. He got the residency through a very beautiful business that was here from a Mexican man. I think the first Mexican man that was in Australia. His name was Marco Trevino, really nice man who had a French bakery, by the way. So very strange. So he gave him the visa to stay, and then he went to Mexico City. Then we saw each other again, and then I was then single, I guess, and young, and he was coming back to Australia. I guess when he was here first, he didn't find love or connection, and then when he went then back, and he was already probably ready for these kind of things at 23, 24. We find each other. We have such a fun in one night. We were dancing in one of these parties. We went together. My cousin invited me, and it was a click that we discovered that, and he said to me, well, I'm going back to Australia with or without you. I gotta go. I don't want to stay here. I want to go. And I was like, oh, this guy looks very confident. So I was like, okay. And I just thought, my mom thought I was going back to Monterrey when I finished my degree. And I had already good opportunities waiting there for me from the university of where I studied, because I was doing a really amazing research, and that was not very common. Most people do social service, stay for a year in the same city in different things. I was kind of those rare cases that I asked to go to another city and give my social service, which is something you do in Mexico after uni. You have to give yourself for a year for free to the community
Oh,
all the
really?
time. Really,
Yeah,
that's
wow.
something still today. You have to do that. So you gotta give yourself as a young person and help any community with your profession. So my social service was going to this research and end up being together with the thesis that after was evaluated by the thesis results, not by an exam like other professions do. So this choice, it just got me to this man. And then I end up coming
And
back with him.
and
So
then
I
you
arrived
landed
in
in
Australia in
Sydney.
99.
Yeah,
I landed
wow.
in
And so it
Sydney.
was only 3 years later that you started your first product. I'd love to hear
It
more
was,
about. So you started with one product, and then how many products
yes.
do you have now? And what was the
I
timeline
have
of going from one? Because this is all pre-social media, right? Like
so that
2002, there
that's
was no social
because
media.
exactly because of exactly like that's what this interview is about, is how it happened is because of the previous story. So
Mm.
I wanted to do something, and I basically said to myself, okay, I want to do something small. I live in an apartment. We end up living in an apartment in Tamarama. I remember we had a flatmate in that moment because I wanted
Wow.
it ocean views. So I said, I'm going
Yeah,
to live
yeah.
with a flatmate because I want to share the rent, so I get really nice ocean views. Because for me, coming from Mexico, from the mountains, if I'm going to give up
Yeah.
on my family, I'm going to be in Sydney. I say, I'm
Well,
not
water,
leaving
goddammit.
the eastern suburbs. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, I said, I never leave this. I would not leave the eastern suburbs. One day I'm going to have a place in here. I want to have an apartment in the eastern suburbs in Australia, because
Yeah.
this is the place why I'm giving up all my family there. And I want to look at the ocean every day. So that was my goal. It was a big goal because it was, and the prices of property obviously were less than they are now. So
Yeah.
it was like that kind of dream just was, how I'm gonna do this. So the beginning was, I need to rent a place that I like, and for that we needed more extra money than what we both had. So I had a sunroom, so I started selling jewelry in the markets because
Yeah.
I just needed much English for it. So with that little cash and some extra cash that we're putting together to get some plane tickets to go back to Mexico and see our families, in 2001, I started doing some research. And no, you know what? I'm just going to start a product. I always wanted to do some teas, like my grandpa, for healing. And then there was this very new visionary business right here on Bonda Road, which is still there. The amazing Health Emporium is a beautiful health store
Yes.
that has been here, same as I am. David and his wife, they've been very visionaries. They started with this selling soy milk. Remember when those days the soy milk was
Yeah,
good
that
for
was
you?
not a thing.
That was not a thing. Soy milk and organic eggs, and then you have granola bars, and there were no products of beauty. There was nothing. Maybe it was a couple of shampoos, I remember, from some German brands, and a couple of moisturizers, but really nothing, very little. It's when some of the big elephants in beauty, they start putting fruits and stuff on their ordinary formulations, which they still do. The talk of parabens wasn't there. The talk of, I guess, the index on terminal disease start coming higher. When all this conversation moved from AIDS to cancer, that was the beginnings of
Yes.
the 2000s. And this is how it changed the conversation of, toxics on where? On food, on fruit, on what? On cosmetics. And I just would jump into that wagon because that was just my upbringing. And I was like, so my mom wasn't a
Yeah.
hippie. She was right. My grandma was right. So I started just reading and understanding. And I thought, okay, so what I'm going to do today, I'm going to create something that is good for me that I can start doing. So it became just, so I created the first mascara that existed, that was natural. And how do I do it?
Wow.
I basically was having struggle with my own sensitive eyes. So I made these questions like, why my honey doesn't get off in my pantry, why the olive oil is always fine, why is all these things that are natural are fine right there in my kitchen, why do I need anything for this? And I start asking myself, what is it in olive oil? It's fat, 100%. What's in honey? It's sugar, it's wax. It's like, what is it? There's no water, Mary. No water. So then I thought, if I remove the water, and then I just start grabbing beauty products and things, because when I try to start formulas like my grandpa, I just come across this thing called TGA, and I was like, oh no, so I cannot just sell a tea and tell people that's going to help you, this and this and that. So that was very complicated. We're talking about 2001, 2001. So I decided to start this, and I put together an idea of how to do. So I said, I can make a beauty product with these natural ingredients without water, then I won't need the paraben, who was the beginning of the talk. That was not good for you. So
Yes.
that's a long time ago. There was, look, I had a very big head computer. You probably know that, not all the young girls, like, I'm
I'm
hitting the
old enough.
menopause. And
These
exactly.
grays are real.
And you look fantastic, Maria. But
Thank
it
you.
is like you go like, how can I? So I had this big computer with a big head,
Yeah.
with a very slow, kind of not even Google.
Dial up modem.
Life exactly. Life was very different then. So it's not like
Yeah.
many today. Brands are born every day out of someone's sunroom, out of
Yeah.
someone's laptop in the middle of the lying down on the beach with a cocktail. That's very different than the way it used to be.
That's
It's
correct.
very different, and a deep research goes into it, because obviously
Yeah.
also the bodies that do this and allow you to do it, to sell it, to do, they were very tough. So the beginning of this for me was like, it took a while until I said, okay, I got this product, and then I find someone who could help me to properly formulate it. I make something myself, then and end up in, while my husband, he's still having a job doing his
Yeah.
thing and doing this, and it just happened. So
And where did
he
you
helped
start
me.
selling? Where did you start
we
selling it
we start
back then? Because
selling in
it's
here in that
pre-online,
health
right?
store particular, in that,
Ah.
it was not websites or anything then.
Yeah, because there's no
Remember
website. It
that,
would have cost $20,000 or something ridiculous back then to build a website, if you even could have
we
one.
did pay that. We did pay
Oh,
that
yeah.
when we started
See?
our first website. That was ages
Yeah.
ago. But that was, and I remember it was the olive oil, the almond oil that was very mascara had this logo of a drop of oil. So it
Yeah.
looked red because I thought red was like the color of almond oil. So when you see it on the website, it was like this blood dripping on the website, because that
Is that
was
what
like,
you
when
wanted?
you get, no, but what, like, I was like, I want the logo,
I
and
love that.
the web developer said to me, do you want the logo to move down, like moving while you open it, because it takes
Oh,
time to
I
think,
can see. Yeah, yeah.
it used to take time to think, and I just had this logo, and the logo had my signature that you have
Yeah.
today, Ere Perez, which already had some surgery, the logo, because my writing is not as nice. So my graphic designer already put some surgery into my writing,
Yeah.
but then you have this logo dripping like blood. So then this amazing, still today, my beautiful art director, Ruth Bowers, she's still doing amazing work for our brand, and how visually it looks so beautiful, everything. And she said, Ari, I think I need to do some surgery and do some change on your logo. My beautiful friend Katie as well, in those days, she's still here with us. That we together, we just like, okay, let's just clear this up, remove the red, and we start
Yeah.
going to in those days, the very strange white. Remember the minimalism that came in
Oh,
the
yes.
2000s after the
Yeah.
war was ending? Yes.
Yeah.
Remember that? So
Yep.
the white one, all these things in the millennium. I remember just enjoying so much seeing the Mexican flag in the Olympics here in Sydney,
Yeah.
in the 2000s. That was, I guess, when the world really saw how beautiful Australia is through
Yeah.
lots of footage that it
It
was
was a very
exposed to
special
the world.
time.
Very special. The world, I'm telling you, before 2000, in Mexico, I knew Australia because of the kangaroo in the corner of the Monopoly that I was playing as a child.
And that was
It's
it.
true. Because Australia's, is expensive. Not everybody middle class can just travel to Australia from
Yeah.
Mexico.
It's a long way
It's like
too. It's
it's like
relative.
you
It's all
guys,
relative,
from
right?
here we can go to Bali, but it's not like
Yeah.
everybody just goes to Mexico. It's far away. So
No.
for me, coming from Mexico was like not just something easy that anyone can just afford. You gotta work hard to get the ticket to come this way. It's far away.
Yeah.
It was more often to get tickets to Europe, or from Mexico to Europe than to Australia. Was very weird. So my husband was this really strange child who decided to come to
He,
Australia. He's
he,
the one
he
who
was an
started it.
outlier, right? Which I have a feeling
He
you're an
was one.
outlier in many
Yes,
ways.
definitely. So you see, you got all this going on. I have this product, I have this formula. So I had these amazing friends who helped me through the journey. And this is why I want to, I don't want to make this very long without teaching what it is you have to be supported by your community, by your love and kindness of the others. If you are not
Mm-hmm.
those persons who think you know it all, which is not someone I am, I tend to be this devil's advocate, who are in the middle of all these different ideas, and then I am definitely gather all these things together and put them out there. But here, we discuss about colors of lipsticks, names, about scents, about ingredients, about, and people goes, oh, I don't know if I want quinoa on my face. What's that? I just saw it in someone's
Or
salad.
quinoa,
I
as
have
some
this
people like to say it.
exactly, like I have, my foundation is made out of oat milk, and somebody said the other day, oh yeah, all the trends because oat milk is in trend, and I was like, well, no, this has been in my catalog for more than 15 years before oat milk was
Yeah.
on trend, because I have porridge for breakfast, and I see every time you pour the milk, it just absorbs of the fat,
Yeah.
and I thought oat milk. When I started researching about oats are really good to keep the skin really in alkaline, very good. Like oat milk is an ingredient for the skin. So for me, I didn't know you can make oat milk. I tried to make it by soaking oats, and then you end up with a foundation made out of oats, who is what today is one of our best sellers. But this has been around for years. It's just probably nobody knew I
Yeah.
existed
I love
before Instagram and all of
I
that.
love the word that I love the word that you have on your wall, and it sounds like it's driven so much of your journey, which is that curiosity piece and you asking the
That's
right
right.
next question. I think that's one beautiful thing about those of us that have science backgrounds is we get taught to ask the next question. I know, and it's
Yes,
the
always.
questions we pose because we've got to pose the right questions. But then also that what I'm hearing a lot of, Eri, is the alignment piece for you, where each step that you took along the way has added up to the next step, and that real entrepreneurial resilience that got built into your system through need and necessity when dad broke his leg has just set you up for such a beautiful trajectory. I'd love to know because, and as some of our listeners today would, I think the majority will probably remember back to the early 2000s, but some of the younger folk might have been very little at that point. So their recollection of what was happening in the business world might not be so, or even on the internet might not be so forefront of mind. How long did it take you? Because is Juan full-time in the business now, or is he still working as an engineer?
No, no, now he's full time. Yeah, he's full
So
time.
how
So we
many years
both
from
do.
that sunroom idea and the idea of walking down the street and looking at the different products, from you just working on a formula to then your beautiful husband being part of the business and you now going from you yourself and some beautiful friends, which I like to consider that I collect amazing people in my life. It sounds like you do
I
too.
gotta, I gotta tell you something very funny. That story of, so we were in a block. The
Yes.
block had, I mean, my beautiful friend Cynthia, I know her from those block parties, I guess.
Uh-huh.
My neighbors were really nice. And then my beautiful neighbor, she was friend of Cynthia. And then Cynthia became my friend. And then we moved to another building. In this beautiful building, we have this mix of talents. You know how is Sydney? People comes and goes. So you have 4 apartments with 3 each. You know, three
Yes.
three rooms each. So every room had a talent. So I was always
I
working,
love
and
that.
everybody was going to the beach and coming back and doing all of this. And while I was there, I remember that one of the evenings I was doing my first. I have the first client selling the mascara, and I needed to make invoices. You know when you need to fold them and send them by post.
Mm-hmm.
So I had my invoices folding time, and I was there folding my invoices, putting it on the envelope, licking the envelope. And then the girls downstairs who are marketeers, they're very beautiful
Yes.
friends, and Marie and Patrice, they're really beautiful girls, very smart and marketeers who always help me as well. And they were like, Eric, come over, we can come have a glass of wine. And I was probably 25 then, by then 26, and
Yeah.
they all just having a party, Tamarama party. And I was like, oh no, I'm busy with my envelopes, and bring them over. And I was like, okay. So I brought the box, right? I brought the box downstairs with all this. It was a lot of maybe eight people sitting there having a wine, talking. There was somebody there with a joint, smoking. And so this guy was helping me folding the envelopes. I'm like, oh, they really gonna smell very natural, these invoices, when they get to
Very herbal.
people's bills. It was just so funny. It was exactly so funny because people will just to call and, can I please talk to accounts? And I was like, oh, who's
One
accounts department?
moment. Let me
And
press hold.
exactly, hold. And it's like, and my husband was maybe cooking or in the toilet. Do you want to talk to me? They want the account. And you're like, okay. And then they call me, can I talk to a PR? And I was like, and I got the apartment next door to my friend. They want to talk to PR. And I said, I don't know what to say. I never have a PR. And they said, okay, Eric, pass it to me. And then my friend just, it was literally like that. So
I love
that
it.
time, from zero to being on the office we are today, because we've been here since my first girl 13 years ago.
Yeah,
So
wow.
this was literally probably 8 years,
Yeah,
from
wow.
being the sunroom idea, and having a sales team and a team and a little place to do packing. That was our warehouse then. At the moment,
Yes.
here is not a warehouse. Now it's a meeting room. It used to be
Yeah,
a
wow.
warehouse. So this was the warehouse. Is the meeting room. It's very small,
So,
5 by 4 meters.
a 23-year or 20-year overnight success.
Yes, it was, but it was one after the other. We have probably
Yeah.
just the 3-step beauty, which it was just the couple of mascaras with the lip balm, a tinted lip balm, who was, today obviously Hailey Viva already got an amazing, lip balm success. But in those days, that was me with my Mexican face doing this very tinted lip balm, who was not,
Yeah,
probably
wow.
common in those days, made out of rose
Yes.
hip with a very nice nude color. That was my first lip product. And then I have the rice powder, which is still today the bronzers we do. I just have 2 shades of a bronzer. Now we got all the colors. We have 100 different products on the range. But at the
Yeah,
beginning,
wow.
that was it. That was just,
And how many countries are you in now, Ere?
we are in
You're
exactly 40 countries right now. We just closed in
40
Malta.
countries.
40 countries,
Wow.
yes, that are physically in. Yes, yes.
Oh, I love that. I love your story. We could talk for hours and hours and hours, Eri. I might need to tee you up for an extra interview series because I think
To
there's
do
so much.
part two,
Well,
yes.
if you're up for part 2, I would love to do part 2 with you because it's there's so many aspects to the tapestry of what's added up and accumulated over your life that has brought together something that an idea sparked from walking down the road in Bondi to your sunroom in Tamarama, and the resilience piece that you then share with, I'm sure, your staff, and that now to be in 40 countries worldwide is just next level. And I do hear through the grapevine, through our mutual beautiful friend Cynthia, that you're now opening up a restaurant as well. Has that opened yet? Have I heard that right through the grapevine?
I'm gonna open. Yeah, I'm gonna open it in October
just because you're
I
not
love
busy
food.
enough. I love that.
I want to understand. I want to understand a new industry, and to understand it, I have to be with my hands right on the.
Yeah, I
stove,
love that.
to
I love
understand
that.
it.
Oh, well, I might have you back on to understand the beauty of going back to startup after you've been at such momentum. I think that would be a great topic to talk about. But before we finish off today, Eri, the Aligned You listeners, I sent you through the top 5 questions for us to finish off with today. I'd love to know, what's your favorite song at the moment? What are you listening to on high rotation?
Well, at the moment, my husband and I are excited because we're gonna see Nile Rodgers and Chick.
Yes.
Like it's just that I love my disco, and I also look. I could tell you some of the Mexican music I like that, but it's probably people won't know it here. But I am at the moment. I like anything that has happiness to it that makes you
I love that.
fun. I'm into fun. I think we need my girls in particular. They are very into music. Both of them are in the performing arts school. They're piano players and singers, and I think they're good, and they loving this moment. I think I just want them. I say to them, please just sing things that make people happy. There's such a need of today. That's everything. Like put some music that makes you happy. There's so much drama already just in the news. There's so much going on that we have to wake up with the desire of wake up the next day and go to bed knowing when you wake up is something fun going on. There's so much
Absolutely.
going on that to get that energy that the world needs and the earth needs to care for her, is it needs to come with a good vibe and project ourselves with something fun. So that's why I like the music at the moment, and I'm excited to go
I
to the
love that.
concert.
I'm very much the same. Everything's about whether it brings me joy, and if it doesn't, I don't listen to it or watch it. What are you reading or watching at the moment?
Exactly. Well, reading. I have a lovely friend, Amy, and she wrote a book it's called Slow Butterfly.
Ooh.
She's very nice. It's Amy Gaga, Gajjar. Her book is about um, to do with hormones and
Oh yeah,
thyroids,
cool.
and it's very nice. But it's like the way she's just describing how to have a better life in your health. I guess it's something, through going
Love that.
to the mid age and entering menopause. I just feel like I need to understand. I just been lucky, you're lucky, you're healthy, you maybe got good genes, and then you maybe I haven't done enough exercise, so I haven't drink enough water, or I haven't have enough protein, or all the things that come with this age. That I was going like, okay, I've been through everything: macrobiotic, vegetarian, vegan, protein, high, keto. These, like,
Yeah.
we've been through everything.
We're
Depending on the
kindred
age you
spirits,
are.
Sarah.
Yeah, people like,
Definitely.
are you? People think I eat lettuce all day because I have this beautiful brand that is so well crafted, with the
Yes.
vegan products and the sustainability. But you're just a normal human being trying to find how you feel better and fit better, without your values, with your values, like in your everyday life, but are challenging in today's world with all this naughty stuff everywhere.
Yeah. Huh? Oh, I
That
I
you just
hear you.
get full. Yes,
What
but
do you
yeah.
do
So
to
that's
what do you do to align and de-stress
And
usually?
let
Is
me
it
tell
eating
you,
good food?
when you say what I was watching, you won't believe what I start to
Yes.
watch. I'm start
What?
to watch Ali McBeal. You remember
Oh, going back old
that?
school. Oh, yes.
But you know why? I just tell you why, because it makes sense. I just try to remind myself how the way things used to be.
Oh,
That is
yeah.
a
It would
very
be a big throwback.
when you watch a show, including anything below 2000s, like
Mm-hmm.
anything. If you watch Pretty Woman, and for example, with my teenage girls, I just want them to show them a bit of how love works, how
Yes.
someone fall in love and romanticism and all of that. So I'm putting them, Bridget Jones, and I just want them to see this before they enter the world they enter in, and what they've been told through social media how things should be.
Yeah. Huh?
I just want them to see the way things used to be, just to them to have a different perspective. So
I think
looking
that's
at old
great.
films is something interesting for us to look at the changes. I go, wow. So Maria, when you were younger, the challenges that you have, and that today is not a challenge anymore for you, is very interesting. But when I see Ali McBeal as the work environment, is literally an office. It's
Yeah.
very
Huh?
different than if you see Suits,
Yes.
or if you watch
100%.
Good Trouble, and then now you watch Good Trouble or things like that, and it's very different how young people used to go to work, how that you address a women's point of view or a man point of view, or how they used to be, the boss, he's my boss, I am the secretary, all of this situation. It really reminds you how far we become. So how much we've been going through
100%.
changes, right and wrong, because some things they should never leave. Normal is
Yeah.
normal. What's normal? It really is different rules. But for me, normal is being happy. And that
Yeah. I
sometimes
like
is
that.
disappearing through the normal. So for me, normal is being happy. It should not be not normal that people stress is normal. So you show aligning to deal with stress,
Mm-hmm.
for me, is about accepting the present. as it comes. It's very important, like, because we take decisions. We do. Nobody has a gun on our head. Like, this is Australia. You might have people listening to this show from another places. And I always say, look, no one put me a gun on the head to tell me you have to marry this guy, you got to study this, you got to live in this place. Like, no one. We are not in other countries that are difficult, like, Afghanistan or North Korea. Like, in North Korea, you cannot even have a certain haircut. That's,
Yeah.
my father always said to me, the freedom, like, yeah, Mexico maybe has all these problems, but you have freedom of choice. And this is something with Australia. There is this freedom that some of us have, not everybody, but some of us who have it, we have to really use it and say, wow, I actually can choose to be happier with my
Yeah.
choices through my values. And this is how
100%.
you stress is also coming from conflict, and conflict comes from progressive. To be progressive and be, new, and bring a new product or bring something different in the work environment because people want to work from home, or all these things that bring stress into people today. We should be I call this positive stress. Instead of being stressed about the changes, we got to be positive, like, actually, this is just what is needed today. We have to be okay and align that this is how it is. But it has to come from both ways. We don't want
100%.
burnout managers out there. We don't want burn kids because they have to do too much. Or, nurses and childcare workers that are so burnt out because they need to do so much report instead of looking after the people they need to look after. Like, this balance comes from talking and being heard, because eventually, if that happiness doesn't come to you right now, if you stay quiet, it will come to someone else in the future. That's what I like to watch old shows, because
Yeah,
then you
I
go,
love that.
oh, it's actually different. It's
Yeah.
happening. Whatever happens there now is not like that. However they see. So this is exactly how I see. So my everyday is completely progressive. I have no rules. I've got no time. I've got no planning. I have never had a business plan. If anyone's starting a business, don't you worry. If you have it, I never had it. And still, I mean, I have a
You,
document
you
there
see,
that I
you,
need
you
to
seem
fill
to be
in.
going okay with no business plan.
Exactly. The plan is to wake up, but you see, the only thing I don't accept is laziness. Not
Oh, yeah, huh?
lazy. I can't stand,
I
I
love
think
that.
it's one of the things that I can't stand is being lazy. Lazy people is like, why will you be lazy? You just got this chance to do things.
Yeah,
Like,
I
why
love
will
that,
you
Eri.
why will you come to work and do nothing? Like, just, if you don't want to do nothing and you are in the nothing box, create. Just go out
Yeah,
there, have a walk, think about, turn the computer upside down, turn the lipstick upside down, turn the moisturizer and see how you can make it better. You don't need to be in the computer all the time. But don't just muck around, passing around the block with a coffee. Like, we gotta do something. And for my kids, the
yeah,
same. Like, if you're very tired, they laying down, fold some clothes, do something that makes you move.
yeah. I love that,
Movement is
Eri.
life.
Before we finish off, have you got any final quick thoughts for our listeners?
Mm, I think
What
the
What's the
smile is
final
the
thought?
key to any
I think,
door.
yeah, the mind is a key to any door. I love that. I love that. And I would
Think
love to have you on again for a
smiling.
second
You
part to
gotta
this
smile
interview,
to the
because
world.
we could talk
Think,
for hours. I know that.
I think the smile
Thank
is
you, Eri,
something that people
so
don't
much for
understand how
coming on
important
today.
it
It's
is.
been an absolute pleasure. Smiling. There you
I
go.
think it's
I
important,
think
like,
I've,
when you arrive to a place that you've never been there before, or meet someone who can maybe teach you something, you have to smile. And they say, oh, hi, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were doing this. Like, apologize with a smile, and also smile to open a door. And I think a smile is the best makeup you can wear. That's my quote. Like, that's it. I don't need
oh,
any
I love
makeup
that.
if you
I
smile.
love that.
You might be happier with some extra mascara and a lipstick, but good mascara
We'll
that
always
is
give it an extra
beautiful,
zhuzh.
clean, sustainable, and beautiful to the environment. But I really think is a lot. I see it all the time. Like, we've just been talking to our neighbors, like, oh, we're moving houses, and everybody got a little sad that, oh, we're gonna miss the Mexicans because we've been in Club Elia years, and oh no,
Yeah.
don't move, where you going? And then is the young guy over there next to the dad who's been sad that we're going, on his phone looking down. We're not showing any suggestion of any feelings when we say we're moving, and the guy just looking at his phone. an 18-year-old boy, and I was just like, wow. The guy could not even just raise his head and just smile and say,
Yeah.
oh, really? My neighbors are going, no show of emotions. And this is what
Yeah.
worries me. We got to teach the younger generation, manifest with your factions, use your face, It's very hard to
I
find
have a feeling we're going to chat more about that on another episode. Eri, we have to leave it there for today. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And Aligned You listeners, don't worry, I'm going to talk Eri into coming back on the show so we can get more of that gold. That's it for this week, Aligned You listeners. Bye for now, and I'll catch you next time.
And that's it for today's episode, Aligned You listeners. Remember to hit the 5-star ratings and share today's episode with your friends. And be sure to join our collective on Facebook and Instagram at Aligned You. Look forward to catching you next time. The information shared on Aligned You podcast is of general nature and for information purposes only. It is not specific medical or personal advice. You should seek assistance from your healthcare practitioner for your individual circumstances. Any information provided doesn't imply endorsement or third-party devices or products and cannot provide you with health and medical advice.